He is Japan's strongest war god. Casey Bowman was just trying to buy a birthday gift for his wife, Namiko Takeda. But while paying, he got targeted by two punks. Realizing this, Casey quickly paid and left, luring the two punks into a deserted, isolated place. But these two had no idea who they were messing with. They pulled out knives trying to rob him. Casey, not wanting trouble, quickly took out his wallet, hoping they'd just take the money and leave. However, the two were greedy. They even wanted the gift he bought for Namiko. That was the last straw for Casey. He immediately taught them a lesson. The two thugs were soon taken down. Angry, they pulled out steel knives, determined to finish him. But Casey kicked the long-haired one down with one blow, followed by a spinning flying kick, and then a sweeping leg strike to knock down the other. When the long-haired guy got back up to attack again, Casey grabbed his arm and quickly held the knife to his throat. Seeing this, the other thug realized how powerful Casey was, dropped his knife immediately, and didn't dare fight again. Casey threw the knife down and left coolly. But when he returned home, he discovered his pregnant wife Namiko Takeda had been murdered. With a strange wound on her neck, Casey broke down in grief, hugging her tightly. Police investigated the scene, but found no useful clues, so Casey could only hold a funeral for Namiko. Unexpectedly, an old friend named Nokobara showed up at the funeral. After burying Namiko, Nokobara comforted Casey and invited him to join his dojo in Thailand. Casey declined on the spot. The police had concluded it was a robbery. He had just been robbed by two punks earlier, so he suspected it was them. The knives they used had a special marking. Casey tracked the marking to a specific dojo, hoping to find the two and get answers. But the dojo members blocked him and tried to throw him out. Fueled by revenge, Casey fought back. To his surprise, none of them were a match. Casey defeated them all with ease, leaving them groaning on the floor. One of them finally confessed the whereabouts of the two punks. That night, Casey ambushed them with a rope trap when they came home. The muscular curly-haired one tried to fight back with a knife, but Casey chopped off his left hand. His partner, enraged, attacked, only to get beaten down hard. Casey then killed him with a single stab. Seeing the one-handed guy try to escape, Casey slashed him again, kicked him into his partner, and finished him off. Casey killed the last thug and from his pocket retrieved the gift he bought for Namiko. This made him more convinced that these two were the murderers. With two enemies down, he traveled to Thailand to find Nokobara. Nokobara was thrilled to see him, happy to have another expert in his dojo. Casey, too, was glad and planned to help Nokobara train students. But on the third day after his arrival, a student was killed with the same wound on the neck as Namiko. Now confused, thinking revenge was already taken, Casey confronted Nokobara. Nokobara said the wound came from a cross-chain weapon, used only by the drug lord of the Golden Triangle, Goro. This guy was ruthless, controlled many dojos and drug routes. Hearing this, Casey set out to find Goro. When he arrived at the location, he was intercepted by a group led by a long-haired thug. After hearing Casey say he was looking for Goro, they ordered their men to attack, but none were a match for Casey. After beating them all down, Casey held a knife to the long-haired one, forcing him to reveal Goro's whereabouts.
Everyone knows who he is, but no one beat him.
Casey was about to leave when the long-haired guy tried to fight back again. After killing him, Casey walked away in despair, planning to rest in a hotel for the night. Just as he was about to take a shower, a group of armed police stormed in. Catching them off guard, Casey suddenly burst out and began teaching them a lesson. He took down one group quickly, then turned to take care of the others. After dealing with the immediate threat, Casey Bowman quickly fled because more enemies were coming and their firepower was fierce. The enemies kept chasing relentlessly, so Casey ran upstairs without stopping, knocking down many enemies on the way. But the number of police grew quickly, and soon they surrounded him. Casey had no choice but to surrender, and was taken to the local police station. The chief asked him why he was looking for Goro, but Casey stayed silent. From the conversation, he sensed the chief was also working for Goro. Seeing he couldn't get any useful info, the chief ordered his men to bring out the electric torture device. The torture made Casey scream in pain, but he still refused to give in. He thought of his wife Namiko before she died, which made him forget the pain and even smile. Then he pretended to faint. The chief thought he really passed out and ordered his men to lock him up, but just as they were about to lock the door, Casey quietly appeared behind them, knocked them both out in 2 seconds, put on one of their uniforms, and tried to sneak out of the station. Unexpectedly, he saw officers were watching the fight between Konkan and Casey on TV. He changed his plan and slipped into the chief's office while they weren't paying attention. After beating the chief, Casey threatened him with a knife, forced him to reveal Goro's location, then killed him because the chief had done many bad things for Goro. After that, Casey equipped himself and went to find Goro. At the edge of Goro's base, he ran into patrol guards, but they were no match for Casey, and he killed them all in minutes. Then he continued toward Goro's base, and unexpectedly found where Goro bought weapons. Casey took the gear he needed, disguised himself as a ninja, used poison needles to kill the gate guards, and snuck into Goro's base. While the henchmen were drinking and partying, Casey put a grenade in a car's fuel tank. The explosion killed many, but alerted Goro inside. Casey was not afraid, and threw another grenade toward the fuel barrels. The fire spread inside the building. Other henchmen rushed out, but Casey killed them all. Goro's personal bodyguard, Lucas, came out and fought Casey for 300 rounds. Seeing the bodyguard was killed, Casey decided to enjoy the fight. After playing around, he kicked the bodyguard down. Angry, Lucas attacked again, but was cut down with a slash. After killing Lucas, Casey went to find Goro, only to find him waiting, and had already wounded Casey with a cross-chain weapon. Wounded and furious, Casey pulled out his crossblade, attacked Goro, slashed his abdomen. Angry, Goro picked up one of Casey's knives, and they fought fiercely for 300 rounds. During close combat, Goro wrapped a rope around Casey's neck. Casey struggled, threw Goro down, and finished him with one strike. Thinking his revenge was complete, Casey returned to Thailand to find Nokobara. While drinking tea happily, Casey noticed a special mark on the knives of Nokobara's men, the same mark as the punk's knives. Casey immediately realized Nokobara was the real mastermind, and suspected the whole thing was Nokobara's setup. Nokobara used the cross-chain to kill Namiko and the student, to manipulate Casey into killing Goro, so Nokobara could control more dojos and drug business. Nokobara boldly admitted it, and invited Casey to forget the past, and join forces to conquer the world. Angry, Casey immediately attacked him. After a fierce battle with no clear winner, they fought again in close combat, still unable to decide a victor. Nokobara drew his samurai sword, while Casey grabbed the wooden staff to defend. At first, he blocked Nokobara's slashes, but the staff broke quickly. Casey created distance, delivered a spinning kick to knock Nokobara down, picked up a samurai sword, and resumed the fight. Even though Nokobara wielded dual swords, Casey still managed to wound him, but was also caught by Nokobara's blade. Enduring the pain, Casey pulled out his samurai sword and continued fighting Nokobara. Injured, Casey was soon knocked down by Nokobara, but accidentally saw Nokobara's cross-chain weapon. To avenge his dead wife, Casey quickly grabbed the cross-chain during Nokobara's attack, and when Nokobara missed his sword strike, threw the chain to wrap around Nokobara's neck, killing him fiercely. Having avenged his wife, Casey chose not to tell the student about Nokobara's drug dealings, to protect the dojo's reputation, and quietly left. Finally, Casey let go of his hatred, ready to start a new life. She just got up to close the door when a drunk man happened to walk in. The girl, dressed in revealing clothes, had no idea how terrifying things were about to get. After putting on her coat, the girl rushed back to her boyfriend's side. But the next second, the drunk man pulled back the curtain, and behind him stood a group of men. They were security guards for a drilling company, living long time in a remote mountainous area where no one lived. Under the influence of alcohol, the drunk man sat right on the edge of the bed and began to harass the girl without restraint. His coworkers did nothing to stop him. Instead, they stood by, watching with interest. Seeing this, the boyfriend couldn't hold back and kicked the drunk man off the bed. He thought that would put an end to things, but the drunk man became even more aggressive. Since they were coworkers, the boyfriend didn't want to escalate the situation. He shoved the drunk man away and shut the door again. But before he could get fully dressed, chaos erupted. The coworkers behind the drunk man revealed their true nature. Because the girl was a Native American, they felt it didn't matter. Watching his girlfriend being humiliated, the boyfriend lost all sense of reason and began to fight back with everything he had. Just as he was about to beat the man to death, the other coworkers rushed over to break it up. Everyone lost control. The scene turned into an all-out brawl. When both of them were knocked out and went still, those animals took advantage of the moment and assaulted the girl repeatedly. Just then, the boyfriend urged his girlfriend to run. The girl struggled to her feet. As she left, she gave him one last, tearful look to escape the monsters chasing her. She ran through snow covered with no roads, and the nearest rescue on horseback was more than 10 kilometers away. With the freezing weather and her injured body, it was impossible for her to survive. She didn't get far before collapsing. The bitter cold had already crystallized fluid in her lungs, and her unprotected limbs suffered various degrees of frostbite. Even so, she didn't give up. The next day, a hunter named Corey spotted a trail of bloody footprints. Alerted, he changed into white camouflage, grabbed his weapon, and followed the trail. Not long after, a blue silhouette appeared in the distance. Corey grew tense and cautiously approached. When he got close, he was horrified. The girl had frozen into a block of ice, long since dead. But the most shocking part was, he knew this girl. Her name was Lily. Seeing her like this, Corey was overwhelmed with grief. He knew she must have suffered immensely before dying. To uncover the truth, he immediately radioed the local sheriff. Due to the severity of the case, the FBI sent a female agent to investigate. Soon after, cold, causing her lungs to freeze and bleed internally. She essentially drowned in her own blood. But here was the question. Why would a girl be running barefoot in the middle of nowhere? What had she gone through? Lily had 2 broken ribs, head trauma from blunt force, and signs of tearing in her lower body, all indicating she had been assaulted before death. The lead agent, Banner, wanted the medical examiner to list the case as homicide, but the examiner refused. He insisted that the cause of death was pulmonary hemorrhage, and that the reason behind it wasn't within his scope to determine. Banner was furious, because if the death wasn't ruled as murder, his superiors would shut down the case, and Lily's story would likely be forgotten. Alone, Banner knew she had to solve this case by herself. To find the truth, she went to Lily's home. She started by blaming her father for failing to protect her, but the father replied that Lily was an adult, free to choose where to go and who to date. Banner initially thought the family was cold and indifferent, as if they didn't care about Lily's death. But after seeing her mother tormented by grief, she realized how wrong she was. The father's coldness and hostility weren't because he didn't care, but because of years of systemic neglect from the government toward Native Americans. Soon after, Corey came to visit Lily's father. When they met, the father's eyes welled up with tears. What parent could stay calm after losing a child in such a horrific way? Corey understood his pain deeply. He had also lost a daughter. To this day, her death remained a mystery, and the tragedy had torn his family apart. Seeking more leads, they questioned Lily's younger brother, Sam, a lazy, aimless teenager. As Banner and the sheriff knocked on the door, Corey instinctively circled to the back. Moments later, a dazed young man stepped out. Thinking they were there to arrest him for drugs, he played it cool, but slowly slipped a hand into his pocket. The sudden attack caught them off guard, and both men clawed at their eyes in pain. Luckily, they managed to signal Corey in time. Meanwhile, Corey crept around the back of the house. He grabbed a shovel and calmly waited by the back door. With one swing of the shovel, Corey easily took down 2 of the drug addicts. Meanwhile, Banner kicked open the door and rushed inside. The place was a total dump. The stench and the earlier spray to the face made her eyes and nose run uncontrollably. There was no time to dwell on it. Holding her breath, she began searching room by room. When the 2 of them came back outside, Corey had already tied up the addict. At first, the guy thought the police were there to arrest him, but after talking to them, he was shocked to learn his sister was dead. The reason they came was just to ask if he knew who his sister's boyfriend was and what his name might be. Later, while the police were handling the body, Corey pointed something out to Banner, a trail of sled marks in the snow stretching from where they stood toward the distant forest. Strangely, there were only tracks going out, none returning, and the trail led directly to where Lily's body was found. In search of answers, the two of them rode snowmobiles and followed the tracks into the woods. They packed and continued on foot, but what they saw shocked them. Half of a corpse lay out in the open, mud and frozen. They returned to report what they found. An autopsy would be needed to confirm the victim's identity. Whether the two deaths were connected remained unclear. That evening, Banner returned with the report. He told White that the body they found was a man named Matt, a contracted security guard for a nearby drilling station. For safety, Banner and the sheriff went to a police station several kilometers away in Wyoming and brought a few officers with them to check the station. At the same time, Corey split off from them. He rode a snowmobile alone back to the place where Matt's body was found. The sheriff's group approached the drilling station from below the mountain. Corey soon arrived at the top of the mountain and followed the snowmobile tracks downward, which, to his surprise, led straight to Matt's former workplace, the drilling site. Back down the slope, Banner and the others were slowly approaching the station. A bad feeling suddenly crept over Corey. The next morning, the sheriff gathered all the local officers and headed to the site. As a hunter, Corey instinctively scouted the surrounding area. A security guard noticed and came forward to talk. The sheriff asked about Matt, and the guard said that 3 days earlier, Matt had argued with his girlfriend and the two left together, never returning. They were waiting for the company to decide whether to report it. As they spoke, more security guards came over, but Banner noticed something off. Many of the guards had bruised faces. When questioned, the guards made up a casual excuse, but it didn't hold up for long. As they chatted, Banner brought up Lily, and just a few words made one guard slip up. The atmosphere grew tense. Clearly, something was wrong with these guards, but they weren't afraid of Native Americans. They all pulled out their guns. The officers did the same. It was a dangerous standoff. One wrong move and it would become a bloodbath. Trying to defuse the situation, Banner quickly announced he was with the FBI and was the first to lower his weapon. At such close range, a firefight would have been deadly for everyone. Inexperienced, Banner thought he had just prevented disaster, but in truth, things were only just beginning. At his request, the group headed toward Matt's cabin. Watching from above, Corey sensed danger. When his radio calls went unanswered, he grabbed his weapon and sprinted downhill, but it was already too late.
FBI, apri la porta!
A gunfight broke out. Everyone reacted on instinct, pulling their triggers. Banner survived thanks to his bulletproof vest, but the guards' firepower was overwhelming. The sheriff and several officers were gunned down one by one. One officer kept guiding the others, but he too was eventually hit. The guards wore body armor, and the police were outgunned. In the end, all the officers except Banner died at the scene. Just as Banner thought he was about to die too, a loud gunshot rang out. A guard was blasted several meters away. From a distance in the snow, Corey, dressed in a white ghillie suit, had arrived. The guards couldn't even see him. Like lambs to the slaughter, they were picked off one by one. Once he cleared out the ones outside, the two remaining guards inside panicked and tried to locate Corey, but in the next second, the ringleader dropped to his knees and kicked open a window to escape from the bar. Banner, having crawled out from behind a crate, emptied his clip at the fleeing guard, but he missed the vital areas, and the man managed to flee into the deep forest. Corey soon caught up. Luckily, Banner's injuries were minor. After quickly patching him up, Corey set out to capture the escaping guard. Little did that man know, he was now in the exact same situation Lily had been in. Wounded, terrified, every breath reminding him that death was close. While he was stumbling through the snow, Corey caught up and knocked him out with a blow to the head. When the man came to, he found himself at the snowy mountain's peak. Corey had taken his shoes, just as Lily had died barefoot in the snow. He now wanted the man to feel the same pain. Corey told him, "If you confess everything, I'll spare your life." Under the threat of death, the man confessed everything that had happened that night in full detail. Once Corey learned the truth, he kept his promise and untied the man.
Non capisco. Che cosa vuoi che faccia? Voglio che corri.
Lily, driven by the will to survive, had run over 6 kilometers through the snowy night. But this beast of a man couldn't even make it 600 meters before collapsing. Like Lily, he ended up choking on his own blood in the snow. He may never have understood just how terrified and helpless that 18-year-old girl must have felt, running barefoot through the freezing night. In the end, Corey found his closest friend and told him, "The animals who took your daughter's life have all paid the price." The two men sat together, praying that their daughters, in the next world, would never be hurt again and could live in peace. This top-level assassin has a peculiar habit. Every time he aims at a target, he must close his eyes before he's willing to pull the trigger.
Fuck.
It's obvious he's showing off a bit too much this time, but it doesn't matter because the target is still within shooting range. Now, he just needs one shot to take him down. although the two successfully eliminated the target. This act also brought about a disaster. After cleaning up the scene, they hurriedly tried to escape down the stairs, but unexpectedly, the bodyguards had blocked the way below. In this crisis, they had no choice but to run upward, only to reach the rooftop, a dead end. But very quickly, they found an entrance that led downstairs. Just as they reached the elevator, a woman pushing a baby stroller suddenly disrupted their plan because the noise had alerted the bodyguards, who were now rushing to their location.
Sam, contact.
What the two didn't know was that the sound of those two gunshots not only alerted the police to their position, but also caused all exits of the building to be blocked. As expected, they didn't get far before being surrounded and captured by a large number of armed bodyguards.
Oh, take it easy. Hold on, ladies.
After a brief exchange, Sam took advantage of the moment when the bodyguards approached to search him to strike back swiftly, because if they got caught, it'd either mean life in prison or being executed on the spot. Even though the bodyguards had the upper hand, they were still no match for top-level assassins like Sam and his partner Ken. With perfect coordination, in just 2.5 minutes, the two of them disabled all the bodyguards. They then ran to the third floor and jumped into a garbage truck they had prepared in advance, successfully escaping the guards' pursuit. But just as they were catching their breath, a new mission came in. However, this time Tamara didn't reveal the identity of the target. Instead, they were told to head to a 5-star hotel. Little did they know, this mission would cost them dearly.
Please.
Led by the hotel manager, they entered the presidential suite. But being a cautious professional, Sam still confirmed with the manager.
You sure? Right? This is our room. Yes, please. Yeah?
To ease Sam's concerns, the manager gave him a card, which revealed the room was a gift from their superior. Because Sam had recently said he planned to retire, considering his status as a veteran, he was not only gifted a suite, but also given 2 women for doorstep service. Even the passphrase they used matched their usual communication code. So, without much suspicion, they let the 2 women in. But midway through, one woman's action made Sam react instantly. He stopped the woman in red from opening the curtains. In such an exposed place, that would be a deadly mistake for an assassin. Soon, his instincts proved right. Not long after, the manager came back with a waiter, claiming to bring them dinner. But behind these seemingly normal people was a deadly trap. While placing the food on the table, the waiter asked one of the women to open the curtains. Despite Sam's protests, the man ignored him completely, and in just that brief moment, as the waiter opened the balcony window, the man suddenly noticed a sniper scope glinting from the building across the street. The next second, a hail of bullets rained toward them. Sam quickly pulled a mirror behind the couch, but just as he reached for the remote to close the curtains, one of the female waiters lunged at him. In a split second, she snatched the remote and almost managed to fully open the curtains. Unexpectedly, this enraged the woman in red. She ignored the sniper threat and launched into a full-on fight with Sam. What's more shocking, she not only matched Sam blow for blow, but was even more skilled in combat. Just then, a sniper's bullet blew her head apart. But before Sam could catch his breath, the male waiter attacked him again. Even though the man wasn't a real threat one-on-one, his reckless fighting style, combined with the sniper outside, put enormous pressure on Sam. In a split second, while the man paused to take off his clothes, Sam saw a chance to fight back. As they grappled again, Sam pulled off a Chinese martial arts move, but as the man fell, he accidentally hit the curtain remote. Seeing this, Sam had to hide again. Luckily, Ken came up with a solution. He smashed the table lamp next to him, but not completely, as turning off all lights would make them sitting ducks if the sniper had thermal imaging. Then, Sam tried using a mirror to locate the sniper's position, but suddenly, the male waiter who was supposedly dead got up and wrapped a steel wire around Sam's neck. Luckily, Ken immediately threw a pillow to provide cover, then quickly charged at the waiter. Although he successfully saved Sam, within seconds, Ken was kicked away by the waiter. It was clear now, the enemy's skills far surpassed Ken's. Seizing the opportunity, Ken managed to throw the attacker out the window, but while hiding behind a pillar afterward, he was shot through the waist by a sniper from the opposite building.
Ken! Ken! Fuck!
As the three were on the verge of collapse, Sam suddenly received a call from Tamara. The voice claimed to know what he was going through and said reinforcements were already on the way. She told Sam to pick up a mirror to see how they were clearing out the snipers across the street. But when Sam saw the situation through the mirror, he decided to test if it was really safe by tossing a pillow outside. When nothing happened, he stuck his head out. That moment of hesitation made Sam realize something was wrong with Tamara. The voice on the other end no longer tried to hide it. Ever since Sam said he wanted to retire, they had planned to kill him. By eliminating him, the organization wouldn't have to pay a hefty retirement bonus. Tamara also revealed that a large number of mercenaries had already been sent to wipe them out. But what she didn't expect was Sam making a bold move. He leaped over the bar counter and retrieved his weapon case, then kicked down the power switch. The worst part, he hadn't even opened the case yet, when a large squad of fully armed mercenaries barged in. While setting up his sniper rifle, Sam was quickly surrounded by the mercenaries. But instead of fighting back, he laid low, trying to locate the sniper across the way, because that sniper was the bigger threat. Though he managed to take out the enemy spotter with a single shot, the nearby mercenaries had now fully locked in on his hiding spot. But to everyone's surprise, once they ran out of bullets, Sam suddenly reappeared and in an instant turned one of the mercenaries into a dinosaur. As flames blazed around them, the ceiling's fire suppression system was triggered, releasing clouds of smoke. Taking advantage of the cover, Sam launched a swift counterattack. After finally wiping out the mercenaries, one survivor caught Sam off guard.
Stop it!
With no choice, Sam pretended to drop his weapon, but secretly prepared to strike. Just then, another mercenary suddenly lunged at him. It was the same one who had passed out earlier from the fire, but his combat skills were no match for Sam. After only a few moves, he was sent straight to the afterlife. Yet the danger was far from over. Outside, a sniper was watching everything through the window. Amira realized she likely wouldn't make it out alive. After thinking it over, she handed Sam a photo of her daughter and asked him if she died to look after her. Just then, the elevator bell rang. Sam dove across the floor to continue battling the second wave of mercenaries. This time, he was up against a huge brute, clearly more than he could handle head-on, so he timed it just right. As he hit the open door button, he pulled the pin on the brute's grenade and jumped out of the elevator just in time. Before the smoke cleared, another soldier aimed at Sam, but before he could shoot, he was taken down by a single shot from Amira. Unfortunately, that shot revealed Amira's position, and she was instantly sniped. Enraged by the sight, Sam mounted his sniper rifle to fire back, but to everyone's shock, both snipers pulled their triggers at the same time. Though the immediate threat was cleared, they longer. But Sam didn't give up on Ken. He dragged him into a room, only to be faced with a new threat. An armed drone arrived outside the window. To protect Ken from further harm, Sam diverted the drone's attention. After unloading all its ammo, the drone paused. Seeing this, Sam launched his counterattack, but unexpectedly, the drone fired a grenade. Acting fast, Sam ran to the balcony and fired at the drone, but it had no effect. Thankfully, with a flash of brilliance, Sam found a way to blow it up in one shot.
Fuck you!
What he didn't know was that a large wave of mercenaries was now closing in on his location. Though top-tier assassin Sam could still handle them with ease, what truly broke him was the death of his closest partner due to blood loss. However, before he passed, Ken had crafted a makeshift parachute using a blanket. With no time to mourn, Sam climbed onto the balcony. If he didn't escape now, he would die too. Trusting his brother's final act, he jumped without hesitation. Midair, the blanket suddenly tore apart. Luckily, Sam landed in a garbage truck and narrowly survived. 1 week later, he contacted Tamara and told her, "Today, I'm sending you off." Tamara didn't take it seriously. She casually went to the restroom alone, on her way in. After 3 more shots, Sam walked out, holding the hand of a little girl, who was surely Amira's daughter.
A brutal murder of an archbishop sparks a high-profile trial centered around a young church servant. A renowned lawyer takes on his defense without realizing what dark secrets will be uncovered during the case. This is the film Primal Fear. Martin Vale is a defense attorney who loves the spotlight and thrives on high-profile cases. For him, the courtroom isn't just a place for justice, it's a stage where he always plays the leading role. Confident and charismatic, he's used to being the center of attention, and he eagerly takes on cases that promise not just money, but fame. One evening at a bar, Martin hears breaking news. The mutilated body of Archbishop Richard Rushman has been found. A passing courier had alerted the police after hearing sounds of a struggle and the shattering of glass in the Archbishop's office. Captain Stenner and his team soon arrived to find a horrifying scene. The priest's eyes had been gouged out, 4 fingers severed, and numbers carved into his chest. As Martin continues listening to the news, he learns that the police are chasing a suspect who briefly escaped but was soon caught after being tracked from the air. Realizing this could be the case of the year and eager to outpace rival lawyers, Martin calls his secretary to find out where the suspect is being held. Once he knows, he rushes to meet him. Introducing himself, Martin offers to defend the young man, Aaron, free of charge. In a stuttering voice, Aaron explains that a year and a half ago, the Archbishop took him off the streets and gave him shelter in the church home where he had been serving ever since. The previous day, he had gone to return a book only to find the Archbishop lying in a pool of blood. He fainted but remembered seeing another figure in the room. When he regained consciousness, he was covered in blood. Hearing sirens, he panicked and ran. Aaron admits that he sometimes blacks out in stressful situations, and what happened in the Archbishop's office was one of those moments. The police, however, don't believe him, nor do they believe there was anyone else in the room. Back at his office, Martin instructs his assistants Naomi and Tommy to dig into the Archbishop's background and find out what the numbers 3216 carved on his chest might mean. Soon, Martin discovers that his ex-girlfriend Janet will be the prosecutor, and she's seeking the death penalty. Their relationship ended because Janet refused to be just another accessory in Martin's life, where work always came first. At trial, Martin first requests a psychiatric evaluation of his client. This means Aaron doesn't have to answer any questions until the examination is complete. Meanwhile, Tommy goes to search Aaron's room, but is attacked by an unknown man. Acting fast, he rips an earring off the attacker before the man escapes. Aaron recognizes it. It belongs to Alex, another altar boy. Martin suspects Alex may be involved in the murder, but Aaron insists Alex could never do such a thing. Martin meets Janet, asking her to drop the case since he believes Aaron is innocent, but she's confident she has enough evidence to secure a conviction. Janet also believes Aaron is faking his stutter and simple-mindedness. Dr. Molly Arrington begins Aaron's psychiatric evaluation and asks about Linda, a girl whose photo was found in his room. Blushing, Aaron admits she was his girlfriend and that they were intimate, but she left long before the murder. Naomi soon uncovers something about Archbishop Rushman's foundation. One of its investors is the Attorney General, John Shaughnessy. Meeting with Joe Pinheiro and his friend, Martin learns that several wealthy investors had poured money into the Archbishop's land trust, hoping to acquire church property in South River for luxury development. But Rushman refused to sell, causing huge financial losses. Martin asks Joe to testify if needed, and he agrees. When Martin later meets Shaughnessy, the Attorney General makes it clear he's not happy that Martin's team is digging into the foundation, which includes many powerful figures. Martin presses, curious about how much money Shaughnessy lost, but the man coldly warns him that it's dangerous to play games with him. At the next hearing, Janet argues that the shoe prints and fingerprints on the murder weapon belong to Aaron, and that the wounds were made with the left hand. Aaron is left-handed. Martin counters that the real killer could have left those prints while Aaron was unconscious and may have intentionally used his left hand to frame him. Captain Stenner later testifies that the numbers carved on the Archbishop's chest led police to one of his books, where a passage condemning hypocrisy was highlighted. During another session with Dr. Arrington, Aaron becomes agitated when she insists on talking about Linda. His demeanor suddenly changes. He becomes aggressive and vulgar, shocking the doctor, who realizes he's lost control of himself. Meanwhile, Tommy finds Alex and tells Martin. When Alex spots them, he runs, but they catch him. Under pressure, Alex confesses that he was searching for a videotape made by the Archbishop showing him, Aaron, and Linda engaged in a sexual act filmed under the pretext of exorcising the devil. After that, Linda disappeared. With a warrant, Martin finds the tape in the Archbishop's quarters and confirms Aaron was telling the truth. After watching it, he confronts Aaron, accusing him of lying and of killing the priest who forced them into such acts. Suddenly, Aaron's personality shifts completely. He becomes Roy, a harsh, confident alter ego who admits he killed the Archbishop.
At first, Martin is confused, but soon realizes that Aaron suffers from dissociative identity disorder. Roy, furious, demands that Martin stop tormenting Aaron, saying that he only wanted to protect the boy who couldn't endure the abuse any longer. Roy confesses that he despised Linda for betraying Aaron and warns Martin never to show the tape to anyone. When Dr. Arrington enters the room, Roy disappears, and Aaron, now himself again, has no idea what just happened. The psychiatrist is convinced Aaron suffers from multiple personality disorder and should be in a psychiatric hospital, not prison. Martin believes him innocent, but now fears they might lose the case since proving mental illness in court will be difficult. Determined to fight, Martin's team debates whether to show the tape in court. Naomi warns it could reveal Aaron's motive, but Martin thinks it would evoke sympathy. Later, Janet receives the tape anonymously, delivered by Tommy under Martin's orders. She realizes his plan. If she presents the tape, Martin will appear noble and principled. The next day, the Attorney General orders her to destroy it, saying they must prosecute the killer, not the church. In court, Janet shows the tape. It depicts Aaron, Alex, and Linda performing sexual acts under the Archbishop's direction. She argues that Aaron had motive for murder.
Martin later learns that Joe Pinero has been found dead. When court resumes, he calls the Attorney General to the stand and exposes his financial interests in the Archbishop's foundation, suggesting he had motive to silence Rushman after the church refused the land deal. Furious, the judge halts the session, warning Martin not to use the courtroom for personal vendettas. Finally, Dr. Arrington testifies that Aaron's mind created a second personality, Roy, after severe childhood trauma. The judge forbids the jury from considering insanity. Janet then cross-examines her, questioning her expertise and demanding proof of Roy's existence. But there's none. The camera had been turned off during the episode. Next, Aaron testifies. Under Martin's questioning, he remains calm, saying he loved the Archbishop and would never hurt him. But when Janet takes over, she taunts him, accusing the Archbishop of forcing them into depravity. She yells that if she were in his place, she'd have killed the man. Her aggression triggers a transformation. Roy emerges. He lunges at Janet, threatening her before being restrained by officers. The incident convinces the judge that Aaron is insane. She rules that he be sent to a psychiatric facility. Janet accuses Martin of manipulating the situation. He admits he took a risk, but so did she. After the hearing, Martin visits Aaron, who seems confused and claims he remembers nothing. Martin tells him he'll be transferred for treatment and may be released one day. Aaron thanks him and asks Martin to apologize to Janet for almost hurting her neck.
That phrase stops Martin cold. Aaron had just said he remembered nothing. When questioned, Aaron drops the act. Roy reappears, smirking. He confesses that he invented the timid, stuttering Aaron to manipulate everyone. Yes, he killed the Archbishop. The man had abused him and other boys for years. Martin, devastated, realizes he's been played. Legally, he's won, but morally, he's lost. The truth is cruel. The meek boy was just a mask. Behind it hid darkness powerful enough to deceive even the sharpest mind.
In the dead of night, a mysterious object falls from the sky and crashes in the desert. The impact is witnessed by a hunter and his dog who won't stop barking. The dog dashes toward the mysterious object to investigate but immediately returns. The hunter hears a growl and gets ready to fire while the dog runs away in fear. Next day, Renee bids goodbye to her dead pet lizard and burns it on the grill. Then she tells her mother, Linda, that she needs to take her to the store because she has to buy food for her pet snake. Linda confesses she's not a fan of Renee having creepy animals as pets. When Linda's boyfriend Chase arrives for breakfast, Renee tries to avoid him, causing Chase to scold her for not even saying good morning. On her way out, Renee angrily scratches Chase's van in retaliation. During lunchtime, Renee sits down at the same table as Gil, who is also an outsider. Gil tries to start some conversation, but Renee only wants to eat her meal. After classes, Linda is delayed picking Renee up. When Linda tries to ask about her daughter's day, Renee instantly changes the topic to Linda's tardiness and learns that her mother didn't go to work today. Renee wants her mother to contact the doctor and get a stronger prescription, but Linda assures her that she just had a rough morning. This makes Renee realize that Linda and Chase had a disagreement and tells her that they should separate, pointing out that Chase doesn't even help and only spends his days drinking alcohol. Linda explains that Chase depends on her and being wanted is a nice feeling. At home, Renee feeds her collection of creepy pets and even sings to them while playing the banjo. She realizes that her snake is her closest friend, which is sad. During dinner, Chase brings up the scratches on his van and indirectly accuses Renee, but Linda forces him to change the subject. Then, Chase complains about the bad odor of their microwave, so Renee explains she heated a dead rat for her snake. Chase panics about how unhygienic that is, and Renee gets sarcastic, so Chase throws chips at her face. A shaken Renee bursts out of the house and hears Linda and Chase quarreling inside. Tired of the drama, Renee gets on her ATV and drives to the middle of the desert to cry alone. At that moment, she finds the hunter's flipped truck and a crater nearby. When she turns around, she sees a terrifying creature roaring, so she runs to take cover. The creature tries to follow her, but it's chained to the truck. It starts thrashing all over the place, trying to break the chain to no success. Eventually, it gives up and lies down defeated. Renee uses the opportunity to run back to the ATV and freezes when she notices that the creature is in pain because it got caught in the hunter's trap.
After some hesitation, she goes to the truck and removes the chain. The creature screeches, and Renee rushes to the ATV to escape in panic. At home, Renee sees Linda comforting Chase. She's so frustrated that she decides to stay outside for a bit. In the morning, Renee sees a bunch of helicopters flying in the area. Getting worried about the creature, she spends her morning making a list of the items she'll need to help it. She asks Gil to borrow his mother's video camera and repays him by sharing her English homework. When Renee gets home, Linda and Chase are waiting for her to have a discussion. Chase gives Renee his 24-hour sobriety coin and hopes that he can maintain it tomorrow. Renee points out that he drank last night, thus he didn't really do 24 hours, and Chase explains he's doing his best, so Renee should try to for the sake of her mother. After Chase leaves, Linda says that he's serious about wanting to get better, but Renee drops the coin and points out that he didn't even say sorry. Later, Renee gathers all her supplies and puts a sign on her door saying she'll be occupied with homework and mustn't be disturbed.
That way, they won't notice she's gone. Then she sneaks into the couple's bedroom and steals Chase's car keys. When she opens his truck, she finds lots of small vodka bottles and a pistol, which is the last item she needs. Afterward, Renee drives to the same location in the desert. At first, she doesn't see the beast, but using her binoculars allows her to find it in the crater. She then fires the gun in the air as a test, but the creature doesn't even react. Next, Renee sets up the camera and slowly approaches the creature to cut off the trap. Once again, it doesn't move, so Renee walks away thinking it's dead. Suddenly, the creature lunges at Renee and tackles her to the ground and drools all over her hair. After sniffing her, it steps away, and Renee finally can look at it closely to confirm it's an alien. She tries speaking to it and offers an apple, but the beast throws it away. At that moment, the helicopters fly by again, and Renee tries to explain to the alien that the chopper is dangerous.
In the evening, Renee goes back home and realizes she dropped Chase's gun in the desert. She leaves her bedroom and finds Chase drinking on the couch, so he asks her not to tell Linda. He also asks about his keys, and Renee pretends she knows nothing. When she goes outside, she's shocked to find the alien in the bushes. She tells it to leave, but it won't listen, so she gets her ATV and goes to the desert so that the alien will follow her there. In the desert, Renee loses sight of the creature. Suddenly, the creature appears in front of her and opens its mouth to send out golden waves that cover her face. For several seconds, Renee's body floats while her eyes glow brightly. By the time she wakes, it's already daylight and the alien is sleeping. Renee embraces it and decides she can't abandon it, so she takes it home and hides it in the basement. In the desert, the helicopters and an entire investigation team are still searching for the mysterious object that crashed from the sky. Back to Renee, she only pretends to go to school and calls her mother to make sure she's at work. After Chase leaves for the day, Renee takes the alien to the main house and tries to feed it, but it turns down everything she offers. The alien is given a tour of the house, and Renee introduces it to her pets, although she has to stop it from eating them. She then decides to name the alien Croak. When Renee sings and plays her banjo, Croak's scales shake. Renee guesses it's afraid and assures it she'll protect it. Moments later, Linda returns early from work because she couldn't handle her depression. Chase sends her a photo of his 48-hour sober token, and Linda weeps in the car, thinking she's not trying enough. In the living room, Renee is watching television with Croak, and she panics when she hears her mother enter the door. She sneaks out with her new friend, and Linda is annoyed to find a mess, so she takes her medicine to calm down. While Renee and Croak rush to the cellar, Gil arrives at the house asking for his camera. Linda lets him go to Renee's room, and he takes a look at a picture of Renee's late father. Then he considers smelling her pillow, but stops himself when he realizes it would be creepy. After leaving some water for Croak, Renee goes back to the house and tells her angry mother that she didn't go to school because she isn't feeling well. When Renee goes to her room, she discovers that Gil has watched the video of Croak. Renee says it's some animal that she saw in the desert, but it ran away, claiming it was probably a fake. She takes the camera from him and discovers that Gil has stolen the tape. They argue over it, but are interrupted by Linda, who announces that the door is staying open. After Linda is gone, Gil says he wants the truth or he'll take the tape to the police. Renee takes Gil to the cellar. Croak tries to attack the boy, but Renee teaches it that he's a friend. When Croak sniffs Gil, he faints and wets his pants. Moments later, Gil wakes, and Renee has to cover his mouth to stop him from screaming. Then, Renee pets Croak while singing to make its scales vibrate, which convinces Gil that the alien is harmless. Afterward, returns the tape to Renee and promises to keep a secret. Neither of them sees Agent Brown nearby, spying on their conversation and taking photos.
Goes down there and sings for Croak while playing the banjo. She explains that the instrument used to belong to her late dad and shares anecdotes from her childhood. Renee also tries to feed Croak, but it doesn't like anything. The next day, during lunch, Gil shares a theory inspired by Jurassic Park. He thinks that Croak doesn't want to be fed like a pet, it wants to hunt. In the evening, the teens take Croak to Hellhole Canyon, and it finally gets to eat by attacking a bunch of pigs that Gil brought. After it's done eating, it brings a piece of pig for Renee. Renee tries to hug Gil to thank him, but Croak roars and doesn't let them touch. After leaving Croak in the cellar, Renee tries to go to her room, only for a drunk Chase to grab her by the hair and throw her on the couch before asking about his gun. Renee tries to lie, but Chase is onto her, so she has no choice but to admit she lost it. Chase then complains that Renee doesn't respect him because she doesn't fear him. He tells her a story of how his father mistreated him as a kid, but he saw it as a way to teach respect. A terrified Renee tries to run away, and Chase quickly captures her, so she bites his arm to free herself. Chase responds by throwing her against the wall and crawling on her to start choking her. Linda hears the screaming and runs to pull Chase away, while Croak also hears it all and starts pounding on the cellar wall. The house begins to shake, and after several minutes, Croak finally gives up. Linda thinks it was just an earthquake and insults Chase as she kicks him out, finally breaking up with him. When he hesitates to move, she throws a beer bottle at the wall, forcing him to finally leave. Then, Linda tries to check on Renee, but she's too angry that her mother let it reach this point, and pretends to run to her room. Renee actually goes to the cellar and reminds Croak to behave. She ends up falling asleep there. The next morning, Renee is approached by Agent Jonathan, who convinces her to get in the car with him after showing his badge and mentioning he found the gun. It's registered under Chase's name, but the last fingerprints are Renee's. When she claims that she went to the desert to shoot cans, Jonathan says he'll be nice for now and hands her his business card. If she doesn't call him with the information he wants, he'll come back with a warrant and handcuffs. Meanwhile, Linda discovers that the water isn't working and calls a plumber. Since he's a friend, Linda goes to work while the man checks the issue. He goes down the cellar and finds Croak, so he hits it with his tools in panic. This causes Croak to bite him. The terrified plumber gets back in his van and drives away as fast as possible, but the pain and fear are keeping him distracted, so he ends up crashing into another vehicle. When Renee goes home after school, Linda tries to have a serious conversation with her. However, Renee starts yelling at her and blames her for everything. This makes Linda break down, so she tells Renee about the water before going to her room. Renee realizes what broke the pipes and runs to the cellar to find human blood on the floor. She checks on Croak and notices the alien is bleeding too. Renee tells it not to hurt people and finally accepts that she can't keep Croak in the house anymore. In the meantime, Gil is visited by Brown. In the evening, Renee drives her ATV to the desert and makes Croak follow her. It starts running so fast that it passes the vehicle. They meet with Gil, and Renee explains she's thinking of putting Croak in Chase's van to take it to a reserve where it won't be found. This would require her to stay with it until she's sure it's safe. Gil then reveals that Brown visited him and threatened to deport his immigrant relatives if he didn't share information, but he didn't say anything. Afterward, Renee hides Croak in a big box in the desert and goes home to start packing for the trip. She leaves a letter for Linda and frees all her pets. When she gets in the van, a drunken armed Chase shows up and pulls her out. Then Chase forces Renee and Linda to sit in the living room with him so he can complain about not being loved. He gets angry and throws the table. Meanwhile, in the desert, a group of agents finds the box, but when they look inside, they find it empty. Croak is currently running back to the house. Chase is beating up Linda, who desperately tells her daughter to leave. Renee tries to run away, so Chase follows her and smashes her face on the van. Then he points his gun at her, saying it's her fault that Linda doesn't love him. Suddenly, Croak tackles Chase against the van and kills him. When Renee tries to stop the alien, Croak roars at her and runs away. At that moment, Gil arrives and throws up when he sees Chase's body. He thinks Croak is beyond helping now and reveals he's talked to the agents. Suddenly, Jonathan comes out of the house and shoots the tires of the ATV. Soon, the whole team surrounds the house and sets up all their equipment. Renee is tied to a chair and a net is put on her hair to connect her to a computer that confirms her bond with the alien is the strongest the agents have ever seen. Jonathan breaks Renee's finger to make her scream. Croak hears it and immediately runs back to the house, only to walk right into a trap that continuously shocks it until it passes out. Rihanna yells as she begs for mercy, but Jonathan puts her to sleep. Sometime later, Croak is being taken to a government facility on a special platform that keeps it docile. Renee is being kept on a chair in an empty room, and when Jonathan wakes her up, she spits on his face. She explains that Croak is her friend, but Jonathan insists it's dangerous. He explains that Renee isn't the first person to find an alien. She's just the first one to do so and survive. The government believes that Croak is a beast built by a life far more intelligent than humans and was sent to Earth to do reconnaissance, which means they could be invaded in the future. Since Renee bonded with Croak, Jonathan wants her to let scientists study her so they can learn the best way to kill the aliens. If she doesn't agree, he'll put Linda in a mental institution and extract the information from Renee by force, which would irritate her. Linda is allowed to visit Renee, and she reveals she's read the letter, so she apologizes to her daughter for everything. After Linda leaves, Renee decides to get Croak's attention by repeating what Jonathan did to her hand. Hearing her scream, Jonathan rushes into the room and covers her mouth. So Renee bites him. Croak roars as it frees itself from the platform and starts killing all the guards that tried to stop it. The alarms echo in the whole building as the lights start to flicker. Linda worries about her daughter, but finds the door locked, so she'll have to escape through the vents. In the corridor, she's horrified to find all the bodies. Jonathan and Brown get their weapons ready and point them at the door. However, Croak bursts into the room by breaking the wood and sends both men flying, which knocks them out. Croak then gets ready to kill them, but Renee convinces it not to. After petting Croak to calm it, she takes Jonathan's keys to free herself, and the duo escapes. Outside, Renee and Croak try to get in a car. Jonathan also comes out and opens fire. But luckily, Gil has been waiting nearby and warns them just in time. Renee and Croak hide behind a car, and Jonathan keeps shooting at the vehicle, not caring about possibly hitting the girl. Desperate to protect Renee, Croak comes out of hiding, and Jonathan shoots it multiple times. Croak still manages to tackle him and kill him. Renee runs to her friend's side and breaks down when she confirms that Croak is dead too. Linda and Gil do their best to comfort her. Sometime later, Linda, Renee, and Gil have a picnic together. In a government lab, they try to study Croak's body when it suddenly wakes up.
Everybody's patiently been waiting for it, and it's finally here. The thriller event of the fall just dropped on Hulu. I'm, of course, talking about the 2025 version of The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Who the fuck was hoping for another version of The Hand That Rocks the Cradle? Especially when Rebecca De Mornay knocked it out of the park the first time. And let's not forget Ernie Hudson as Solomon. The poor bastard's mom was taking too much Tylenol while he was in utero, but he still managed to get shit done. And the film even has Lloyd Braun from Seinfeld in it as a competent father and husband. What do we have in 2025? Well, I'm glad I asked myself that question, and I'm now going to answer it. Say, before I jump into what will probably be the greatest review you ever hear for this film, if you wouldn't mind, this is going to be a spoiler review because, again, it's a new version of The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. I won't get into the spoilers, though, till later in the review, but just giving you a heads up. Micah Monroe from It Follows and Longlegs, you know, the film that people pretend is good, but I know the truth, is here as the villain of the film, the villainess, one could say, Polly Murphy. Even the name is harmless. Polly, are you out of your mind? In the original, it's Peyton. That's a solid. She's going to be terrorizing the Morales house, targeting Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character. And I have to say, they went full Karen with her in this movie. The look, the tight bun in the hair, the business suits. I hate it. I don't think it's a good look. And I love me some Mary Elizabeth Winstead normally. She has a couple kids like the original, but her husband this time around, oh my God, this guy is the biggest cuck I've ever seen. Miguel is useless in the movie. There's a scene towards the end that's absolutely hysterical, where Caitlin is under attack and the husband knows something's wrong, so he pulls his daughter from the softball game early and they head home. But when we cut back to them, he's just kind of sauntering down the sidewalk. Oh, we better hurry up and get home to your mom. Scoot-to-doo. Oh, look at the birds out today. The one thing I'm going to give this film props for is it doesn't attempt to just redo the same story. This is very much Hand That Rocks the Cradle in name only. The plot is almost entirely new. The only thing that there's no lovable groundskeeper, there's no pervy doctor, there's no evil wife planning on how she's going to take over the family. Instead, we have Polly who befriends Caitlin early on, and she's going to make this family's life a living hell as the movie progresses. And how she does so is quite hilarious in unintentional ways, because for the most part, her version of sabotage is adding some sugar to a sugarless recipe, adding microplastics to food that shouldn't have it. This is the most I live in California and this is what scares me type of script I've ever seen play out. Now, eventually things will ratchet up to an exciting degree, but it happens so far late in the game, and there are no fun characters in the meantime to get to know. In the original Hand That Rocks, they come into play. With the new version, it feels like this character is just kind of throwing shit at the wall. Obviously, she has a plan in mind, which is that of revenge. Multiple times, she's going to try to come on to the main character in this film. I guess the plan there is Caitlin's going to not want to be with her husband anymore, find him uninteresting. Well, spoiler, she already kind of doesn't think he's that interesting. And double spoiler, he's not. It just doesn't go anywhere interesting. You know what? There's also no boob shot breastfeeding a stranger's baby. And if we're not going to even do that, what the hell's the point of this? This film also has a road out front that's more comical than the one found in Pet Sematary, where those giant semis are flying by going like 100 miles an hour. Here it's the same on a smaller scale. Cars are just whipping through this neighborhood and the stop sign is down and it's just the most lazy foreshadowing ever smashed over your head because they cut back to it 2 or 3 times within the first 15 minutes of the movie. And so I knew instantly it was going to come into play. The way our villains play these roles is night and day as well, where Rebecca De Mornay was very soft-spoken, genteel to the people she needed to be, but then ruthless and quite vicious to those that stepped on her in any way, was very fun to watch play out. And it made sense how she earned the trust of the family so quickly. This woman, as she constantly purses the duck lips and has these smoky eyes just staring into your soul, it's not coming off as pleasant and a joy to be around. Instead, I feel like this woman's gonna lose her mind and attack me at any moment. Thrillers set in the 90s also have a massive advantage when it comes to technology. Even if you're very well off, have a beautiful home, you probably don't have a great security system. And if they do have one, not use it ever. And I'm pretty sure I saw when they were walking by a wall, there was a security system that they just never use. Protective over her children, you would imagine there'd be a nanny cam somewhere in that house, but no, No nanny cam, no ring cam, nothing that would easily identify the troubling behavior going on at the house. My favorite ridiculous scene in the new film is Polly is given a recommendation from a woman who supposedly she nannied for 2 full years. While later in the game, Caitlin gets a little suspicious of this woman and does some digging, where she finds herself outside of an AA meeting where she's going to confront the person because under her recent calls in her phone log from several months ago, she only had to parse through 2 calls total. And so she called the woman back, saw that she picked up the phone and then ghosted the lady, goes over there and Caitlin confronts her, spilling the beans on what actually happened, which is, drum roll please, who does that? I thought perhaps Polly blackmailed this woman, or maybe it was a psycho friend of Polly's. No, just a lady that felt bad for the whole situation. But before we get to the final reveal, Jessica Biel, let's talk about the production of this movie. Cinematic look that the original has. And for some reason, the director went all in on these dumb shots where the person's kind of repeated in a 50% opacity on the sides of the frames. It never looks good. I don't really understand the point of even doing it. So the bottom line is you're missing out on nothing if you don't watch this from like a laughable standpoint. Like, this is ridiculous. The acting's like schlocky and over the top, but whatever. It's watchable crap. I just wouldn't recommend you wasting your precious time on Earth watching this one, unless of course you also decided in your infinite wisdom to chip away at your life reviewing movies online like I did. When she was just a little girl, 8, 9 years old, something like that, her father was having his way with not just her, but Caitlin, who also knew the family. Except for her name wasn't Caitlin then. And Polly's name was different too. They legally had them changed because of the psychological torture that went on there. More so for Polly because Caitlin said, I've had enough of this bullshit. I'm burning this mother to the ground. And that's exactly what she did. She took a lighter to that sumbitch and watched the thing burn. Unfortunately, not just the father was in the house at the time, but also the mother and Polly's poor little siblings. I think there was 2 of them, maybe just 1. It doesn't matter. And so P. Money has been plotting her revenge for like 30 years, waiting for Caitlin to have a family of her own for Polly to take from her. Much like the original, there's not a big body count in this movie. Only one person dies. It's a friend of the family who, at the behest of Caitlin, does a little research into this Polly character. He sneaks into her little poolside bungalow, rifles through her trash, brings it back to his place so he can do a little experimentation. Short for experimentation. Side note, I also found it very funny that Caitlin's like, I suppose you can stay living with us since you've been so great for the last couple months. We do have this one room off by the pool. It's nothing special, but you know, this is basically what everybody in America has already, so we're nothing new. We're nothing special. All right, the friend takes the trash back to his house where he proceeds to pour it out onto his kitchen table, as one does. And this is probably my favorite scene in the movie because he pulls up a soaked to the bone tampon, dripping blood, pure red. And we're going to focus on this shot like 4 or 5 times. The director's like, yep, this is the money shot. This is cinema. And it all really comes together. Unfortunately, smart as this guy is, he's a fucking idiot. Because instead of informing his friends first about this, he confronts Polly and invites her over. Polly goes to use the bathroom, comes back for a peekaboo with a bat, hits him across the face, drops him to the floor. Keep in mind, Micah Monroe, because this woman is nothing but bones at this point, I'm kind of concerned for her health, but she drops this guy to the ground. He's like, I could stop you, but instead I'm going to take out my phone and slowly dial 911. What? Oh, okay, we can't do anymore. I'm completely exhausted from that. The final confrontation is now upon us where our little Polly Pocket heads back to the house, faced by, I don't know, who cares? They've just been replaced with something else, something that makes her like a rage monster, I suppose. She's not able to see her kids for a day or 2, shows back up at the house. Polly answers the door. They get the one-on-one confrontation, short for confrontation, that you killed my friend. It's all right. She didn't even bring up the friend. That's fine though. Polly's like, ass, dropping MEW right to her ass. And I did rhyme that on purpose. I don't know to what avail. You're not going to keep Mama Bear down for long, though. She grabs the side of the kitchen island to pull herself up. Polly grabs the pan, breaks her hand. Caitlin's still not down for the count. She starts pushing her around, eventually throwing Polly through the glass window, rendering her unconscious or something. All I'm thinking is, okay, take that pan and start beating this bitch to death with it. Call the cops now while you're looking at her body. Do something to restrain her. Do something like break her legs. I don't care. What does Caitlin do? She leaves. She goes into the other room to grab her baby, who's starting to cry a little bit. The fucking baby's fine. What are you doing? The dad and other kid are off at that softball game I foreshadowed earlier, remember? He's now on his way home. He's like, scoop-de-doo. Oh, love the work he did on that hedge over there. Real, you get some new clippers? Oh, yeah, I'm just going home to see my wife. I'm pretty sure she's being assaulted right now. It's the nanny. She's pretty hot. We finally hit the crescendo of the film, and this is easily the best moment of the movie. Caitlin gets in the car with the baby. They start to back out of the driveway. Polly, shot out of a cannon, jumps on top of it. Starts breaking the windshield, and you know what's gonna happen because they foreshadowed it in the lamest way possible. We're going into that death trap triple axle across the road. It is the funniest second shot you will see in quite some time. Absolutely hilarious. I rewound it to watch it again. She's down for the count. Her arm is like over here somewhere. Blood off for burgers. That's good. But I don't recommend you stop off for The Hand That Rocks the Cradle 2025. Just watch the original. It's a classic. And full disclosure, I did not know how well it held up. I figured it would be kind of cheesy by today's standards. So I actually rewatched it with my wife and daughter after this new one that my wife bailed on halfway through. She's like, you're on your fucking own. I'm out of it. Off the stairs and breaking both of his legs was a little much. But outside of that, you have memorable characters. You got some great dialogue. You have a good setting. Everything really fires well, house and whatnot. But then boom, credits hit without just a day later scene, which I always like. I like when they pay it off with a nice healthy ending. Maybe we're back. Original is definitely worth a watch. This new one, yeah, avoid it like the plague. Just like almost all these straight to stream